Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. What would happen in your life if you stopped worrying about what everybody else was saying, what everybody else was doing, and what everybody else was thinking about you, and you just focused on you? See, here's the problem with so many people. They live in the echo chamber of opinions. They spend their energy trying to prove something to others instead of improving something within themselves. And here's the truth. When you focus on yourself and stay silent, everything begins to align. Silence builds strength, not weakness. Most people in today's world confuse silence with passivity, as if being quiet means you don't have an opinion, you don't have power, or you don't have presence. But silence is not the absence of power. Silence is the presence of control. It is the moment where you no longer allow yourself to be reactive to the noise of the world, but instead you become intentional with your energy. Think about it. When a soldier trains for battle, you don't hear them talking about every single move they're going to make. They don't broadcast their strategies. They don't announce their discipline. They do the work in silence. So when the time comes to act, their actions reveal their preparation. That's exactly how your life operates. If you're talking more than you're building, you're weakening your own power. But if you learn to be silent in the right season, you begin to develop a strength that the world can't see coming. Here's the hook. Silence is not retreat, it is reload. Too many people talk themselves out of their own destiny because they feel they need to prove to the world what they're capable of before the time is right. They end up announcing ideas that haven't been developed, visions that haven't been secured, and dreams that haven't been built yet. And because they released it prematurely, the dream either gets crushed by criticism or stolen by those who are more prepared. Silence protects your vision while you work on it. It allows you to build without interference, and it shields your growth until you are strong enough to reveal it. The lion is a perfect example of this truth. When a lion is on the hunt, it doesn't roar. It doesn't announce its presence. It doesn't signal to the prey that it's coming. It moves in silence. Every muscle is focused. Every step is calculated. Every movement is intentional. But once the lion secures its victory, that's when you hear the roar. Too many people want to roar before they've hunted anything, and that's why they lose. The roar comes after the victory, not before. And if you can discipline yourself to be quiet in the season of pursuit, your roar will have authority when the victory comes. Silence also creates the space for clarity. When you're constantly surrounded by noise, distractions, and opinions, you can't even hear your own inner voice. But when you pull back and embrace silence, you gain clarity on who you are, what you want, and what steps you need to take. Think about the seed planted in the soil. It doesn't shout as it grows. It doesn't announce to the world, "Look at me, I'm getting stronger." No, it breaks the ground in silence. It's in that quiet, hidden process where the roots go deep enough to sustain the weight of the tree that will eventually stand tall. If the seed could speak too soon, it might be exposed before it's ready. In the same way, your silence allows your roots to grow deeper. So when the time comes to show your fruit, you can withstand the storms of life. Here's another hook. Don't confuse being seen with being strong. Just because people can't see what you're doing doesn't mean nothing is happening. Some of the greatest breakthroughs happen in hidden places. A diamond is not formed in the spotlight. It is formed under pressure, in darkness, in silence. And when it finally comes to the surface, it doesn't need to explain what it went through. Its brilliance speaks for itself. That's the kind of strength silence builds in you. If you want to truly grow, you must learn the art of working in silence. Not because you're afraid, not because you're timid, but because you are wise enough to understand that strength is not always loud. Real strength is often quiet, patient, and strategic. It waits until the moment of action, and then it moves with such force that no one can deny it. Your silence is not a weakness. It is the space where your power is sharpening, your faith is strengthening, and your vision is maturing. And when the time comes for you to step forward, your results will roar louder than any words ever could. The moment you stop watching everybody else's race, you finally give yourself permission to run your own. Most people don't lose in life because they lack talent. They lose because they lack focus. They are so busy comparing themselves to what others are doing, they forget the only real competition is the person they see in the mirror. Self-focus creates self-mastery. When you shift your attention inward instead of outward, you unlock a level of growth that comparison can never give you. You stop wasting your energy trying to outrun someone else's story, and you begin pouring that energy into perfecting your own. That's where the real transformation begins. Here's the hook. Every minute you spend looking at someone else's path is a minute you've stolen from your own progress. Think about an Olympic sprinter. If they spend their race looking to the left or right to see how fast their competitors are running, they slow themselves down. Why? Because divided focus equals divided results. The fastest way to lose is to break concentration. The fastest way to win is to run with laser focus on your lane. Life works the same way. The more you focus on yourself, the more momentum you build, the more you concentrate on mastering your own habits, your own discipline, your own mindset, the more unstoppable you become. Mastery doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens in the repetition of quiet routines. It's built when you wake up early to sharpen your mind, when you practice skills no one is applauding, when you study when others are distracted. Every small action compounds into mastery. The tragedy is that most people never reach it because instead of being obsessed with their own growth, they are obsessed with someone else's highlight reel. They compare their behind the scenes with somebody else's finished product, and then they wonder why they feel behind. The truth is you are not behind, you are simply distracted. And the moment you focus back on yourself, you can accelerate further than you imagine. Here's another hook. Excellence doesn't come from external applause. It comes from internal accountability. The loudest critics of your life are not your neighbors or your coworkers. The loudest critic is the version of you that knows you can do better. The day you silence the noise outside and listen to the truth inside, that's the day you begin walking in mastery. Because self-focus is not selfishness. It is stewardship. It is taking responsibility for the gifts you've been given and cultivating them to their highest potential. If you don't focus on you, no one else will. And if you don't master yourself, life will master you. The proof of self focuses progress. You don't need to announce you're working. You don't need to tell the world you're grinding. Your results will tell the story. Just like an athlete doesn't talk during training, but lets the game reveal their preparation, you don't need to explain what you're building. When you've mastered yourself, your discipline speaks through your success, your habits testify through your lifestyle, and your consistency becomes the proof of your excellence. One of the biggest traps people fall into is thinking that watching others succeed will somehow push them forward. But the opposite happens. It keeps you stuck because comparison is the thief of energy. When you focus inward, however, you stop measuring your value against someone else's timeline, and you begin measuring it against your own progress. Yesterday's version of you becomes the only benchmark. Did you grow today? Did you discipline yourself today? Did you improve your craft today? That is the scoreboard that matters. And if you win that game, you win the long run. Here's the final hook. You don't rise by trying to copy others. You rise by mastering yourself so deeply that imitation becomes impossible. Self-focus makes you unique. It makes you powerful. It allows you to discover the lane only you can run in. And when you commit to running that lane with relentless focus, you stop competing for recognition and you start competing for greatness. That's the power of self-mastery. You don't have to announce your elevation because your results will announce it for you. The greatest proof of progress is not in your words, but in your outcomes. Too many people talk about where they're going instead of actually going there. They leak their energy by broadcasting their every move instead of saving that energy for the work that produces the move. The truth is, people don't believe promises, they believe proof. When you learn to let your results speak, you create a testimony so undeniable that even your critics have to acknowledge it. Here's the hook. When the fruit is ripe, you don't need a billboard. The sweetness speaks for itself. In the same way, when your results manifest, no announcement is necessary. The seed doesn't shout from the dirt, "I'm growing down here." It simply rises, and when it breaks through the soil, everyone can see it. That's how your success works. If you are still talking more than you're producing, then you are weakening the impact of your eventual breakthrough. Silence paired with results is more powerful than noise paired with nothing. People often try to convince others of their potential. But here's the truth: potential doesn't need convincing. Potential needs cultivation. You don't prove who you are by talking about what you will become. You prove it by becoming. Words without evidence fade into the background, but evidence cannot be ignored. When you walk in results, you don't need to explain. You don't need to defend. You don't need to argue. Your results settle the debate before it begins. Think about a student who spends every night studying. They don't announce their hours in the library. They don't beg for recognition while they're preparing. But when the grades come back, their results reveal their discipline. The same is true in life and business. If you focus on your process, the outcome will make the announcement for you. If you are faithful in the shadows, the spotlight will eventually find you. The key is to stop talking about how hard you're working and start working so hard that your results tell the story without you ever saying a word. Here's another hook. When you have results, you no longer need to chase validation because validation will start chasing you. Opportunities don't flock to the loudest voices. They flock to the strongest evidence. That's why the marketplace rewards execution over explanation. It doesn't care about your reasons, your excuses, or your intentions. It rewards the outcome you deliver. So if you want to be respected, stop talking about what you're planning and start producing something that proves it. Respect follows results. One of the dangers of constant talking is that it creates accountability to people who don't even matter. You end up explaining yourself to critics who will never support you and defending your vision to people who will never understand it. But when you focus on building, the day will come when your results answer every critic in a way your words never could. Because the loudest rebuttal is success. The greatest revenge is achievement. And the strongest statement is progress. Think about it this way. If a tree bears fruit, No one argues whether it's alive. They don't debate whether it's healthy. They don't question whether it's rooted. The fruit speaks. Likewise, your results eliminate the need for debate. You don't have to explain your grind when the fruit is hanging from your branches. You don't have to justify your journey when the evidence is visible. Your results become your voice, and that voice echoes louder than any argument. Here's the final hook. Words can inspire, but results can't be denied. Inspiration fades, evidence remains. That's why your focus should not be on explaining what you're going to do, but on becoming the kind of person who does it so consistently that the outcome is undeniable. The world doesn't need another promise of greatness. It needs the proof of it. And when you provide that proof through your results, you don't have to ask for recognition. You don't have to beg for respect. And you don't have to fight for attention. The results will do all the talking, and they will speak louder than you ever could.